Thompson has expressed public concern over whether Australia's cyber defence capabilities are fit to withstand large-scale cyber attack. He's raised questions such as how can we engage the Australian community in this debate? How can we increase our national resilience? And what is the role of the Australian Defence Force in defending Australia's cyberspace? Major General Thompson is himself a volunteer with the Australian Institute of Engineers, and to those considering becoming volunteers, his advice: don't talk about it, do it. And regarding adopting new technologies and new ideas, the Major General's advice is to give it a red-hot rip. And now hopefully with some insights on exactly how the security industry can assist with giving it a red-hot rip, here's Major General Marcus Thompson.
That is the most forceful I have heard an Air Force officer in some time. Well, ladies and gentlemen, can I just begin by also adding my recognition to the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet, the More people, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I'd also offer my respects to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders who are joining us today. And of course, as Fiona mentioned, given the unique alignment this year of the delayed NAIDOC week and Remembrance Day, it's appropriate that we all just take a moment to recognise the significant contribution, service and sacrifice of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders in the defence of our nation. Now, before I get started, can I just for those of you who I can see or you can see me, can I just get a show of hands? Who might have tuned in to hear me speak at LCS earlier this week? Anyone? Excellent. That means you can all listen in. Anyone who listened in at LCS, I was going to give them the next 30 minutes off. Thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to speak today. This is my first time at SAGE, so I hope I'll do you justice. I think this forms a fantastic opportunity to discuss key risks in the security environment. And as the ADF's Head of Information Warfare, I can confirm that I see cyber as one of those. And I look forward to talking more about that today. So it's been an eventful year, hasn't it? And I think that 12 months ago, I can't imagine that any of us here could have predicted where we would be today. We've lived through, since then, we've lived through one of the worst fire seasons in our nation's history. And the world is still subject to a pandemic that has destroyed lives, livelihoods, and greatly damaged our economy. Every facet of our lives has been affected by it. The only reassuring constant, perhaps, we have is that our digital environment, which has sustained, enabled, and in some cases saved us during this unprecedented global crisis. In many ways, our roaring dependence on the digital world has covered us with the same speed that the fires engulfed us over Christmas. We knew the fires were there, they were dangerous, and that they had the potential to overtake us. And they did overtake us, or at least they nearly did. As a nation, we're learning to adapt to this new environment of cyber and information warfare in much the same way as our communities have become more sharply aware of the risk we suffer from bushfires and pandemics. These risks seep through the seams of our existing governance and security systems and threaten to overtake us. Cyber information events can come without warning and engulf how we do our business and conduct our lives. Our communities across government, business and industry have started to adapt themselves meaningfully to how we manage this very real risk to our national capability and even our individual lives. In the ADF, the complexity and sophistication of cyber threats has changed how we think about our security, our governance, and how we fight. So I'd like today to share with you an overview of my 4 years as the inaugural Head of Information Warfare. And even this last and very unpredictable year shares themes with the ADF's growth as an organisation becoming resilient in the cyber age. So let me start with that. The story of the summer bushfires isn't unlike my entry into this job some 4 years ago. Then there were elements and senior people in the Department of Defence that were reticent about forming an information warfare division. I recall vividly that I would walk the halls of Russell as the division's new head and whisper in the hope that I wouldn't be immediately sacked for doing so. Then, of course, cyber's importance came like fire in its intensity and our awareness of the threats. The public profile changed decisively. And earlier this year, the Prime Minister announced that the nation was subject to ongoing cyber attacks at all levels of government. This type of public conversation would have been unthinkable a decade ago. Now, the nation knows that cyber is a way of life and core to the business of national security, business strategy and management, and individual and community safety. Cyber has become part and parcel of what we do in the Australian Defence Force. In my time as inaugural Head of Information Warfare, we've come a long way. To name just a few things, we've accelerated the development of our cyber workforce, achieving the objectives that were laid out in Defence White Paper 16, some 7 years ahead of what White Paper 16 told us to do. We've built our own cyber ranges. We've established a joint cyber unit and cyber units in the Navy and the Army to complement a lengthy effort within the Air Force. We've established a common training pipeline for training cyber professionals in the ADF. To the point now where cyber is the only truly joint ADF workforce. And it's the only ADF trade with a common pipeline across the three services of the Navy, the Army, and the Air Force. Common training pipeline, common career pathways, common pay. First time that's happened in the history of the Australian Defence Force. We've developed a common ADF cyber worthiness framework for our combat platforms, our OT, that I suspect will have potential application well beyond defence in the fullness of time. We've developed and agreed cyber doctrine and concepts. Some of you may be aware we've recently launched a cyber gap program to allow short ADF work placements to prepare cyber students to apply their skills in an online operation environment. 250 places open for January, applications closed yesterday, well over 1,000 applications. It's a cracking program. Be another 800 people over the next, total of 800 people over 4 years. Additionally, we've established partnerships with local, national and international institutions to support the ADF cyber information warfare capability development. We've established classified cyber infrastructure and databases. We are well on our way to progressing advanced ADF satellite capabilities, and we've developed advanced and integrated ADF electronic warfare systems. In addition, we've achieved government approval of our flagship project, JP 9131, Defensive Cyber Operations, some 12 months faster than the original schedule laid out by government, so that the ADF can defend our deployed networks and combat platforms against rapidly evolving cyber threats. And in that regard, the Minister of Defence announced on the 12th of August this year an initial investment of some $575 million for that program. To support the continued acceleration of that workforce. I'd also understand that as part of that program, we will construct a joint information warfare facility here at the ACT. Now, these are only a few of our achievements, and the momentum in my shop has been fast and strong and continues that way unabated. But at the end of 4 years, approaching the end of 4 years, do I think that Defence has got it about information warfare and cyber? Have we advanced to a point where, as I've asked many times, do we have ADF commanders who will think kinetic and non-kinetic effects in the same breath? Yeah. I think the answer is yes. Yeah. But we've still got a long way to go. So where have we got to? Some of you may recall and heard me speak previously that despite even my own initial scepticism about information and cyber operations when I began in 2017, a quick reading of Russian warfare theorist and their former Chief of the General Staff, Valery Gerasimov, convinced me that we needed to act fast. The issue clear to me was that warfare was changing in its character. What our Defence Strategic Update recently termed grey zone operations were becoming part and parcel of how military manoeuvres are being conducted across the world. Grey zone operations, as the Strategic Update reminds us, are coercion and influence operations that do not exceed the threshold of normal military conflict, but achieve strategic goals by means other than conventional state-on-state conflict. The world has seen that such operations are very effective. The ADF, with our allies, has begun to address how to confront operations in the grey zone of conflict between peace and war. Cyber is a big part of this. And that is cyber capabilities and the use of digital information more broadly. By that I mean any form of activity in the digital world which has aggressive strategic intent against a nation, its interests, or its critical national infrastructure. Because cyber information plays such a key role in these new dynamics of conflict, it's essential for us as a defence force to treat cyber as a domain of warfare, not just an enabling capability, as we have done today. So I started to do this. This involved new thinking about how warfighting is conducted in every domain, where joint capabilities in the future mean air, land, sea, space, and cyber, all contributing effects in their own right and all coordinated. These are some big conceptual shifts. They change how we think about warfare, just as governments also thinking about how we generate national capability in the cyber domain outside of defence. The government's 2020 cyber security strategy, for example, shows that we're starting to join together the seams of cyber as a national effort. Alongside government's lead cyber agencies, the ADF is learning to think about how to act in cyberspace as a domain of warfare, and not just a new set of technologies which will improve or supplement our existing or traditional warfighting capabilities. Now there are, as Fiona mentioned, there are three key questions that I've been posing throughout my tenure, which I've previously presented to others that have spoken. Firstly, how do we have a sensible public conversation about information warfare? Secondly, how do we all work together to build national resilience against malign activities in cyberspace? Thirdly, the one's been keeping them away. What's the role of the Australian Defence Force in a whole of government response to these threats? Within about 8 days of the end of my tenure, I reckon I'm in a better place today to answer each of those questions. So let me start with my first question. How do we have a sensible public conversation about information? Well, I think we're in a better place to do this because the government is already speaking about it. As I've noted, the grey zone is now part of our strategic lexicon. The commanders and thought leaders are beginning to analyse and identify how the ADF will respond to activities using cyber and information alongside other tools of control power. But there remain ambiguities, principally about what information warfare actually is. Is it political warfare waged through digital means? Or is it cyber capabilities directed dangerously at civilian populations? But it's also much more than that. It's the reality that today, the passage of information in the digital sphere defines and directs our lives in ways we couldn't imagine just a few years ago. That means for the general public, we have to accept that digital information is a tool of national capability, both for us and, of course, for the potential adversary. It means that the public are in the line of fire in a way that they haven't been for a long time. Because information is the ammunition of the cyber domain. Information, the ones and zeros, the facts and figures resident in the information environment, can be purposed to strategic ends by state and non-state actors. Put differently, recently, the smartphone could be considered the AK-47 of the modern information. We're only just getting used to what that means. Now, you're listening to me and you're not from the military, and that's making you worried. You probably shouldn't. But there's grounds to feel safe too. The ADF's ability and agility in this domain has been impressive. We've learned fast in a short time how to make use of this new battlefield of cyber information on deployed operations. And at home, we work closely with our teammates in the Australian Signals Directorate to ensure that the Australian military can fight in and through the cyber domain. ASD's capability is amongst the very best in the world. And we are learning through them and our whole of government peers how to use this domain to the strongest effect for our ADF objectives. Within the ADF, our forces are learning to integrate in the information domain with our allies to make us more formidable through our strategic partnerships with industry, with our traditional allies. If the strategic battlefield has changed through cyber information's prevalence, the ADF is changing with it, and sometimes evolving faster than the battlefield itself. So let me move to my second question. How do we build national resilience against violence? The answer to this question starts with awareness and acceptance of the threat. The threat is real, it is dynamic, and it wishes us harm. For that reason, we need to be able to talk clearly about the cyber threat and inform ourselves how to counter it across all sections of our community. Then we need to build national resilience against it. National resilience is a core question for Australia. We saw through the summer bushfires and now seeing through the COVID-19 pandemic that our ability to withstand sudden, unpredictable and destructive change is central to our national capacity. For that reason, Australia must become as nationally resilient in the cyber domain as we are in every other component of our national capability. Perhaps more so in the digital environment because of the extent to which digital information now drives us. And of course, because of our increasing dependence on digital information and digital equipment. Recent analysis by Australia's own AusCyber showed that a sustained cyber attack against Australia's economy lasting 4 weeks could cost the Australian economy some $30 billion, approximately 1.5% of GDP. Of course, such amounts can pale when seen against global figures for economic loss and recovery during the pandemic, but the reality is that digital and cyber weakness can be crippling to our way of life. So how do we defend against such possibilities and become resilient to withstand them? Well, first, we need to cooperate well and integrate strongly. All of us. Already, government departments recognise that cyber is part of their core business, and they're working together to ensure their core cyber business can function effectively with the cyber defences of other agencies. It's all part of what I'd call a mesh effect in the cyber world. We can't generate resilience in silos. We must ensure we are across each other's defences. We are all very much confronting this set of problems together. The 2020 cyber security strategy and recent announcements on cyber security for national infrastructure are very much part of working in our cyber environment as a collective national effort. Secondly, we need to be able to share critical information at the right time with the right people. That means generating a community of capability where people know who to talk to and when about the risks they're seeing and how they might affect the whole of government systems, those of critical industries and those of critical infrastructure. The ADF cannot wage cyber warfare alone. No one can defend against it. Developing communities of interest are part of generating the mesh of knowledge that will make our defences strong and our communities deep in their understandings of cyber risks and how to tackle them. That means community of interest across government, industry, academia, and the wider Australian community. Finally, we need to be imaginative as we anticipate the speed of change in the cyber domain. We may be living in the last days of human cyber, for example, with artificial intelligence beating down the door to drive cyber decision-making in less than a generation. How can we adapt to such shifts if we can't really imagine the world after artificial intelligence? We'll need changes to our decision-making structures that accommodate and make the most of these rapid advances in technology. None of them are a panacea, and none of them are the answer to any of our existing problems. Each of them represent an opportunity for us to innovate organisationally, to grow our strategic capability for modern warfare in the light. So I think that alongside our generation of strong cyber defences, we need serious strategic imagination to identify how we, in the ADF, will manoeuvre in and through the cyber domain in the light of quickly advancing technology. We can no more stand still with our decision-making in a rapidly changing world that we can expect warfare to return to its ancient antecedents of sticks and stones. The pace of change is faster than we expected. We'll need to run harder as a country and as an ADF to keep up with it. Resilience in this setting means being prepared to change quickly and often to preserve Australia's strategic enterprise in the light of some of the most dramatic technological shifts we have witnessed in generations. It also means being able to map that change so that we in the ADF can be deliberate about our strategic choices for cyber and purposeful in how we approach the shifts that advancing cyber information technology. So let me move to my final question. What's the role of the ADF in the whole of government response to cyber information? Look, and this is the topic I've wanted to talk about the most during we saw over last summer, right, and the pandemic that followed, that the ADF has become an option of first resort when dealing with urgent, complex national threats, or perhaps close to option number two. This is especially the case for risks like the summer bushfires and the pandemic, which emerged quickly and found their way through most of our traditional crisis response mechanisms. Arguing that cyber is a risk just as dangerous as ever a pandemic or the summer bushfires. The ADF has come a long way in a very short period of time in our capability development to deal with cyber information warfare threats. We're still learning. We're like ducks or swans, calm on the surface, paddling furiously at every level of our internal system to stay abreast of cyber's growth and to maximise its potential. We've learned in the ADF that we will need to work more closely with our whole of government colleagues to master this capability. Because unlike traditional military theatres of operation, there isn't an exclusive cyber terrain for the ADF that belongs solely to uniformed units. Mostly all of the ADF cyber activities are carefully threaded through our relationships and dependencies with other agencies, industry, and our allies. This is more of a strength than a risk, and we're learning daily to make it a greater asset. What will distinguish the ADF's approach to cyber, however, is our ability to understand the nature of conflict in the cyber environment and to respond in kinetic conflicts by integrating cyber with our traditional capabilities for the appropriate military effect. Because this is where cyber effects are really most effective. Fully other military effects. That means being open to strongly threading the ADF's external relationships, so we move beyond the traditional or narrow vision of strategic preparedness to one that maximises the ADF's multiple partnerships in the cyber domain in order to do our work. So while other agencies such as ASD, the Department of Home Affairs, will of course remain lead for Australia's cyber responses, the ADF is growing our partnerships with them in a strong posture of cooperation to meet national threats in the cyber domain. It's a moment of growth for the ADF, just as it is for whole of government partners who are coming to learn what the ADF can bring and what those other agencies can bring us, the ADF, in this new battle space in the cyber domain. So what do I think the ADF's role is? Quite simply, it's as the lead military partner, as experts skilled in the profession of arms, who can apply that experience to a new domain of warfare, whose evolution is as rapid as cyber and information's technological growth. So let me just say in conclusion that approaching the end of 4 years as the inaugural head of information warfare for the Australian Defence Force, I can say my time in this role has been one of unreserved learning for me. Well, I started with some sense of apprehension as to whether I could even say the words in Defence Headquarters. I can't say it now. I can't say it. I can't refer to it now. I can't go anywhere and talk to anyone without people wanting to know more, without people wanting more from us. In its own right, this is a singular advance on a capability for the ADF, which had only just begun 4 years ago. It is alongside the ADF's significant growth in cyber capability, investment and focus across these 4 years. Cyber information are now core to what the ADF does. They are part and parcel of how we prepare to fight as a joint force and how we think about facing any challenge from the strategic through the tactical level of war. For me, I look back on these 4 years as those of growth toward a still developing goal, preparing the ADF for the conflicts of the 21st century, wherever they present. For you, here at Sage, are we all sufficiently prepared for this environment? This is a question you'll be able to answer much better than me. So I look forward to conversations with you about how that can happen in your sector alongside government and media, and what we can learn about the emergent cyber domain from each other. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I think I've got a few minutes for questions, so you might just continue that. Or we can all get on with our respective days. I fair dinkum, I do have a couple of minutes if anyone does have.